now we want to planning experiment, a friction experiment. So today the objective is to work in teams, to listen to each other, and to plan an investigation. Now you've still originally got the original idea. Any time? Mohammed? So, I'm going to be putting you in different teams. If you remember, we were talking last time about how to measure friction. Okay? So, if we've got a ramp, what do I do with the block? Okay? So I put the block on there, and we let it slide down, and we can measure either the
length or the speed.
the length of the speed. Yeah, okay, on words. Okay. Right. So we can measure the speed it takes, the time it takes, or the distance. And we thought that it would be easier to measure the distance. So when we measure the distance, we're going to use a ruler, okay, to measure the distance it travels. Now, why do we use a slope and not just push it with our hands? Good. We want to make sure we use the same force each time, don't we? That's it. Okay. Now, what could we change on our experiments? The surface. Good. So look, I've got some sandpaper on this side. I've got some wood on this side. Or well, yes, we didn't discuss that last lesson, did we? Because we want to try and keep the force the same. So we would keep the slope the same height, but the weights of the object, yes, by putting some masses on it. Good. Now we also said there was another way of making sure the force was the same. What was that? Let's pick somebody else. Leonard, what was the other way we could make sure that the force stayed the same?
We did the thing with the chair.
Good. Go on the chair and
Elastic.
the elastic band. Good. So we put an elastic band across the legs. We then stretch the elastic band back. That will propel the object. Now, today's going to be carefully working together, because I'm not going to give you any instructions about what to do. You know how we could do experiments, so we're going to be planning it and we're going to be working together. Girls, sorry, don't you do any copying? Okay? Because what we actually, the outcome is what we've got on the board just there. If you see we've got there, we're going to be writing a report, not all of you, together. So some of you will have different tasks. We will have to have the title, the introduction, or the prediction, what we think is going to happen. We will have a diagram of our experiments. And is diagram in pencil or pen? Pencil. Good. Thank you very much indeed, and a ruler. We're then going to have our method, how we're doing the experiments. We're then going to have our results table. Now, are we going to do the experiment just once for each material? What should we do? We should do it 3 times for each. And what maths should we do with those numbers? Average. Good. Because then when we've got our results table with our average, we can then make a graph of the averages. That'll make it nice and easy to help us look for a pattern. Okay? Then, of course, once we've got our pattern, we say what the pattern is. What part of the description is that? What part of the method? The conclusion. Good. Just sit down for a minute, Alice. I'm going to get your attention in there. I'll get your chair a minute, but we're going to be busy moving around the room in a minute. Okay, so Mrs. Ashley. So what's the last bit of a report going to be? People got the conclusion. Well, is that the last bit, or does that begin with E?
Evaluation.
The evaluation now. Okay, let's have a look. See. What's the Yusuf? What's an evaluation?
An evaluation is when you predict. No, that's the prediction. Evaluation is what happened in the.
Almost, except that's really the conclusion.
Write down maybe what you could have done better.
What you could have done better. Good. And how you could have improved it. Excellent. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. Now, if there's a team of 3 of you, doesn't mean all 3 have to do all that. You and your team decide who's going to do which bits. And of course you talk to each other to share ideas. Now, I know, I've just noticed a couple of you look at each other and go, oh yeah, that's great, my friend. But I've actually split you up into groups so you're working with new team. Okay? Now, of course, last lesson you wrote down 3 words. You told me whether it was going to be the slope, or whether it was going to be the elastic. You told me whether you were going to change the surface, or whether you were going to change the weights. And of course, hopefully we're all just going to measure the distance. So, the teams are and I'll just explain this. Just quickly, we can use baskets instead of wooden blocks if you want to, but of course in your team you choose, and of course it has to be the same for each experiment. The different materials we can use: paper, cloth, bubble wrap, silver foil, greaseproof paper, and of course to fix it on there you can use sellotape or glue tack. If you're changing the masses, you keep the container the same, and if you're trying to change the mass on a wooden block, the mass is going to fall off. So we either need to stick it on, or we use the masses in the baskets, and let the basket do the slide. Okay? So, the teams. We have got Anatita, and Mr. Saki, and Noor. Okay? And this is a team of 4, and also Fatma. Okay? So can we your teams there? The next team is going to be Abdullah, Vanya, Reem, and that's it, team of 3. So we have your these papers. Now, see, sometimes you people would do like. Some people, you're working in a new group. That's you.
No.
It is. Thank you. Thank you. You're volunteering. Next team is going to be Yaya, Abdullah, and Natasha, and Saja. Okay? So, Natasha, you take that.
Why do they good again?
This Abdullah.
Yes.
Okay? So the next team, Mariam, Nadine,
I don't want to.
Abdullah, Dusty. Oh! This one team, so Abdullah, you're going to have a bit of paper. Okay?
Sir, which Mary?
Next, a man, is it quite, which Mariam is it?
So I didn't change my team.
Tawfiq. Okay. Next one is going to be Mohammed. Mohammed, there's a few of you that you just wrote everything off the board, didn't you? You didn't make any choices. But anyway, I've made the choice for you. So Mohammed, Leo, and Mohammed Ali, that's it. Also Bush as well. So, it's getting exciting, isn't it? Who's next? Mariam, was it that is? Teeth, carrots, and
Oh my God.
Johnny. Okay, so Johnny, you have that pile of papers.
I'll let Bonnie do it. We'll let Bonnie.
So, you've worked it out. Alex, Adi, Asmi, and Yusuf, you're the team. Now,
Sir, I want to choose my
on the
group.
bits of paper, it's clear what experiment you're planning. Is it going to be using a slope? Is it going to be using elastic bands? We've got there's 7 groups, so we're going to have plenty of space to be able to get to our groups and work. Whether you're doing it on the floor, whether you're doing it on the bench, it's up to you to organise. If you find that the experiment you want to do doesn't work quite right, you're allowed to change it. You're not allowed to change what's written on here. But let's say, for example, you choose an elastic band which is so tight I can't move it back. Then you go, oh, that's not working. So what could you do? Change the elastic band to one that does work. But as long as you make sure that it's a fair test, so that every experiment is using the same elastic band. The only thing you change is either the weight, if that's your experiment, or the surface. And you're going to be working together as a team to be efficient. Okay? So it doesn't mean you need to listen to each other. You don't need a lot of noise. You're going to be working in your area. You choose where you want to be. So the people, you know which groups you're in. I'll spread out some of the equipment so that you don't have to all crowd in the same place. You get it? And we're going to get some results. Now, what I'm going to do is a scrap piece of paper to write down. To write down some results as you get them. Then, of course, towards the end of the lesson. Towards the end of the lesson then, I think that's some line paper and graph paper, so you can start putting stuff together. Now what I suggest, when we come to the report, you decide in your group who's doing which bits, to make sure we've all got it covered, but you don't have to have the same bit of paper, because let's say, for example, the person doing the title and the introduction diagram, well, you're going to write probably on the first half, we can tear this in half, somebody else will cut it in half, somebody else can write the other bit, and we can stick them together back on a bit of paper again. Okay? So we don't need to be sitting there going, oh, nothing to do because they're doing the writing. Okay, you're all going to be contributing something. And I suggest you talk in your team about whose the strengths are. If somebody's not very good at drawing, don't get them to do the diagram. If somebody says I'm really good at graphs, they do the graph. Okay? So you'll need some scrap paper, or you can also use this paper here as one of your materials if you want to. Remember, 5 changes. We want to get 5 changes. So right, in groups. Off we go.
Yes. That's enough chaos. Sorry, excuse me. Nice. Now, well done for finding a space. Hopefully you found your team. You need to collect what you need to do this experiment, because I'm not going to give you any extra help now. Obviously, I'm just going to be walking around. If you're a bit stuck, then obviously I can give you maybe a few pointers. Maybe we'll be coming around still doing the filming, and we'll end up with, you can take if you've got the materials, there's the materials. If it's a slope, there's some slopes here and there. There's some rulers here. If you need to measure the force, there's some newton meters here. There's some small slopes here if you want to use the small slopes. There's some blocks here. There's some baskets there. There's some material there. There's bits of metal here if you want to use those in your part of the experiment. It's up to you in your team to discuss what you think will be best and then to work well together as a team. Now, obviously, you've all trying to find some nice space to work on. Well done. Who owns Abdullah? Nobody. Lost at the moment. Really, let's see, there's your group just over there. I'm the only one in the group.
Well, no, you're not the only one.
Nothing.
You're also going to mature one. Okay, here's your paper to put some results on. Here's some paper to put results on.
Vanya.
How many teams have we got?
Vanya.
Are you? Oh, okay. This is just scrap paper, so it's all three things off. Okay?
Vanya, can we get to it? Go somewhere else.
Now, next week, okay? So you can use the plan here or the bottom of the school. Okay?
I bet you'd love to join it. It's one question.
Well, check them, see who's going to do what.
Can you push more? Guys, the chair's
Or you can use a stool to hold it. You get the all the same. Let's relax this out. All the rest of this, right? But there are some other elastic bands. Okay, look. Do you want to show you again? What you put there, put like that.
You want to do the first? You want to do
Well
the
done,
first?
the idea of tying that bank in is a good idea. Maybe we'll put a stop now, and then we'll come back in, the last 10 minutes. Is that okay?
I don't think we need all of these. You may. Giving other.
But let's leave that for now.
What we changed? I think I have to do this.
The object, okay? Focus on results. What's the results? Remember? Sit with your groups, please.
Sit down in your group.
Sit with your groups, tied it up. That's it. Tied your groups. Hang on.
What do you want to do?
you have worked really well, beautifully. You've got lots of nice results. So now, you're going to turn it into a report. In your team, you need to decide who's doing which bits, because what we're going to be doing is you'll do the bits of work on different bits of paper, then we can cut and stick them together into one masterpiece. You all have to be involved in something on that report. Okay? So you've all been involved in the practical. We actually are not going to set it for homework, because how can you do the graph and you haven't got the results? How can you do the conclusion if you've got the graph to look for a pattern? So we'll save it until next lesson to finish off the report. The homework is for you to keep your eyes open and make a short list of some good and bad uses of friction. And some of you will just think of 2, some of you will think of hundreds. So this will be in your books. Okay? So can you all please get your planners out and write the homework, which has to be done by Thursday. So the planners I haven't seen your book. There's your plan. I've done it. Let's make sure we write the homework down. This is an easy homework, a short homework, just writing a short list. And
Sir, can you tell me what to do?
yeah. It says if you look at the board, so you can copy
I'm too
it.
lazy to touch my head up.
Yes.
لا يبغى يختار أكيد. أنا قلت waterproof مو bulletproof scratchproof. إيه هذا هو حق على مثل protection.
Let's just try and explore some ideas. So, Abdullah, and your team, what did you find out in your experiments? Resolution, my mistakes? Abdullah, so what did you change? Good. Now, guys, listening? What Abdullah's telling us is a rough, very rough conclusion, because he says we changed the surface, and what did you find about the distance then, Abdullah?
It is a lot, sir, and every experience is the same.
Good. Okay, and do you think there was any pattern when you think about the materials?
No, not really.
Not yet, because you haven't looked at the results table. When you look at the results table, you may find, yes?
The rougher the surface, slower it gets.
Abdullah, did you follow that? They think that maybe the rougher the surface, the slower it went. The less, well not slowest, the less distance. Remember you only measured the distance.
Sir, but they're also close together, the numbers.
Okay, good. So when you come to write your evaluation team, how could you make your numbers be a bigger difference? What could you have done which would make it a clearer experiment? Okay, because we want to know the difference, don't you? Okay, so we think on your evaluation. Okay, let's.
We found out that every time
Sorry, 1 minute.
the object gets heavier, the less distance it goes.
Yeah, okay. The shorter the distance. Yes, okay. What? Any idea why?
Yeah, because every time it gets heavier, the friction gets stronger.
And why do you think that?
Because it's heavy and the gravity is
Think
stronger.
about. Okay, well, those of you got your hands up, put your hands down though, because I'm just priming you for what you would write for a good conclusion. Because a good conclusion doesn't just say the heavier it is, the further, the less distance away. I know you're going to write it. You're going to write it. Don't worry. Okay, but keep thinking that thought. Okay, because you're going to say why that's happened. And then the evaluation is how could you make your experiment better. Okay, so those people who have to get planners, have you written down the homework? Okay, have you cleared up all the mess? Sellotape and paper front, and sit yourself down, wait for the bell. Okay,
Yeah.